The silence in the grand, wood-paneled lecture hall was absolute. On the projector screen behind me was the title page of my PhD dissertation. My advisor, the celebrated Professor Alistair Croft, sat in the front row with the review board, a look of bored annoyance on his face. He thought this was my final defense. He thought he was about to watch me fail. He had no idea that my dissertation wasn't about quantum physics. It was about him. And this wasn't a defense, it was a prosecution. If you have ever had your hard work, your passion, your very ideas stolen from you by someone you trusted, if you've ever been told to sit down when you deserved to stand up, then you understand the fire that forged this story. Welcome to Hearts in Uniform. This is the community that believes the most powerful weapon in the world is a well-documented truth. Show your support for every quiet warrior fighting an intellectual battle by hitting that like button, and subscribe for more stories of arrogant minds being brought to justice. Now, let me tell you how a forgotten rule in a 100-year-old university charter allowed me to destroy the man who tried to erase me. My name is Evelyn Reed. For 5 years, my life was a single, obsessive pursuit, my doctoral thesis on the quantum echo theory. It was my baby, my life's work. My guide in this journey was Professor Croft. To the academic world, he was a titan, a genius with a trail of prestigious publications. To me, he was my mentor. I trusted him completely. That was a mistake that nearly cost me everything. The only person who saw through his facade was my lab partner, Ben Carter, a cynical but brilliant realist who always told me Croft was more interested in acclaim than in science. A week before my scheduled dissertation defense, the day I had worked towards for half a decade, Croft called me into his office. He had a copy of the latest, most prestigious physics journal on his desk. He slid it across to me, his face a mask of false sympathy. "Evelyn," he said, his voice smooth and condescending, "I'm afraid there's been a development." I opened the journal, and there it was, the cover story. The Quantum Echo Theory, a New Paradigm. The author was not Evelyn Reed. It was Professor Alistair Croft. My theory. My data. My words. He had stolen 5 years of my life and published it under his own name. I had to streamline the process, he said, not even having the decency to look ashamed. Think of it as a collaboration where I did the final, crucial work. Your contributions were foundational. He then delivered the killing blow. Obviously, you can no longer defend this thesis. The university requires original work. You'll have to select a new topic and start over. I felt the floor drop out from under me. I was speechless. He hadn't just stolen my work. He was trying to gaslight me into believing I was a junior partner in my own intellectual theft. I walked out of his office in a daze. I met Ben at our lab. When I told him, his face hardened into a mask of cold fury. "We go to the dean," he said. "We expose him." But we both knew the truth. It was the word of a disposable PhD student against a tenured, world-renowned professor with friends on the board. It would be a messy, career-ending battle that I would almost certainly lose. That night, defeated, I sat in the university's dusty archives, ready to give up. I started aimlessly flipping through the original university charter, a massive, leather-bound book from the 1890s, and then I found it, a beautiful, forgotten loophole. Article 7, Section 4. On scholarly pursuit. It stated that the university had a duty to provide all necessary and appropriate resources to support any doctoral candidates formally approved. Novel line of scholarly inquiry. It was archaic language, but its meaning was clear. If the university approved my topic, they had to back my research. A plan began to form. A cold, meticulous, and gloriously malicious plan. I wasn't going to fight his theft. I was going to comply with his order to start over. The next week, I submitted my new dissertation proposal to the department review board, which, by law, included my advisor, Professor Croft. The title of my new thesis was A Methodological Framework for the Identification of Academic Fraud and Ethical Misconduct in High-Level Physics Research. with a focused case study on the publication of the quantum echo theory. I will never forget the look on Croft's face as he read it. It was a flicker of pure, unadulterated panic, quickly masked by his usual arrogance. He was trapped. If he vetoed it, he would look guilty, raising immediate suspicion. If he approved it, he would be approving his own execution. He waved a dismissive hand. A bit meta, but approved, he choked out. He thought I was bluffing. He thought I had no proof. He had forgotten about Article 7, Section 4. My novel line of scholarly inquiry had been approved. The university was now required to give me the resources to investigate it. My first official act as a researcher for my new thesis was to file a formal request through the university's ethics committee for all of Professor Croft's lab notes, drafts, and internal emails pertaining to his publication. Because it was now part of an approved academic project, they couldn't deny it. I was using the university's own bureaucracy as my weapon. For 3 months, I worked. I was no longer a physicist. I was a forensic investigator. I cross-referenced the timestamps on his drafts with the server logs of my own computer. I found emails where he had forwarded my work to a colleague, passing it off as his own. The evidence was a mountain, and it was about to fall directly on his head. Which brings us back to my dissertation defense. Croft sat there, confident he could weather any storm. My first slide went up. It was my new title. He paled. My second slide was a side-by-side comparison of a paragraph from my original draft, dated 2 years ago, and the same paragraph in his published paper. They were identical. Slide after slide, I laid out the digital breadcrumbs, the time-stamped proof, the trail of his lies. My final piece of evidence was an audio file. One final data point, I said. A recording of a meeting with my advisor, where he explained the collaborative nature of this project. I played the audio of him telling me to start over. The room was frozen. The members of the review board looked at Croft, their faces masks of disbelief and disgust. Dean Albright stood up, his expression like thunder. My dissertation, I concluded, my voice ringing with 5 years of suppressed fury, proves, beyond any doubt, a clear and deliberate case of academic fraud. As per the university's own code of conduct, which Professor Croft himself co-authored, I am now ethically obligated to submit this entire body of evidence to the board for immediate review. I didn't just pass my defense, I detonated a bomb. Croft was suspended that day, and later stripped of his tenure and fired in disgrace. The journal issued a formal retraction and published my original thesis, with a full editorial apology. I was awarded my PhD, and my second dissertation, the one on his fraud, was published as a landmark study in academic ethics. He told me to start over, and I did. I started over as the woman who took down a titan, using nothing but his own arrogance and the rules he thought didn't apply to him. So, I have a question for all the brilliant minds watching this. What is the most satisfying moment of malicious compliance you have ever witnessed or been a part of? That perfect moment where you followed someone's terrible instructions so perfectly that it led to their own hilarious or just downfall. I want to hear your stories of weaponized obedience in the comments below. Your genius could be the inspiration for someone else's victory. And if you believe that the smartest revenge is playing by the rules better than your enemy, show your support by hitting like and subscribe. Welcome to the Symposium of Justice.